And the chemicals I wanted were designed to have certain influence on the respiratory enzyme system. And the theory, when the chemicals were tested, seemed to be correct. That is, the selected chemicals had the effect that I had hoped that they would have. And that's the basis upon which the drug was finally designed. And it was improved from time to time, of course, by learning a little bit more about it until the present time.
Yeah, I started to take over, when Jim Sheridan quit working with the material, and that should have been at the latest would be 1984.
I was at Dow Chemical Company, and this was in the very early days, and I wanted to buy my first mice, and it would cost $150 for what I wanted, and I didn't have $150, so I went over to see Dr. Dow. Dr. Willard Dow was president at that time. He was the son of the original founder of the Dow Chemical Company. And they were wonderful people, do anything for anybody. And so I went over and I told him I'd like to have $150. And he says, what for? And I told him. And he says, I'm not going to give it to you. And I said, why not? And he says, well, let me tell you what's going to happen to you if I give you that money. It's going to start you down a road that someday they're going to tar and feather you and then crucify you. And he refused to give me the money. Well, in a small way, that's been the story. They haven't crucified me yet, but I think I've been pretty well tarred and feathered.
And the chemicals that go into this material, if you don't pay any attention to the time it takes, and it takes from the time I start till the time I end a batch, there are tuning areas at which I put it in certain temperature levels, but I don't touch it for a period of time. But anyhow, Jim knows if he started out in the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning and he went right through without tuning the material at all, it would be probably 4 in the afternoon and he would have 25 bottles made. That takes time, and it takes energy because all the time we're dealing with this, we're working with temperature levels. The chemicals at the present time that go into a bottle that I think cost approximately $10. Now, that simply means a pretty simple thing. If I give away 525 bottles, that ends up being, $5,000 a month I'm giving away, which is pretty hard for one kid to do. But it is inexpensive. When you stop to think that at the present time to treat a case, the average cost of treating a case of cancer from the time it's diagnosed till the time the patient dies runs someplace in the neighborhood of a little over $200,000 is the average of treating a cancer patient up to the point that they die. Now, if you can do identically the same thing with a material that you can start out with $10 worth of chemicals, and we did, and I don't hesitate because this was a Colorado company, with Pharmaceutical Basics out of Denver, when a gentleman, and I don't know if Jim touched this, there was one gentleman that offered to finance giving away 1 million bottles of this because he had been cured of cancer with CanCell, and he owns 8 corporations, and he said he would like to give away 1 million bottles of it. So we got a bid from Pharmaceutical Basics at that time, and Pharmaceutical Basics bid $40 a bottle on the material, and that was about 6 years ago. So pharmaceuticals are normally marked up 5 to 1 from manufacturing to the marketplace. So that would have made the legal price of CanCell at that particular time $200 a bottle. And that's the figure we still throw around to at least indicate that people know there is value to the material. That they don't say, well, it's free, I can just dump it down the drain. The other thing about that is, and that is since that time to now, the cost of chemicals have about tripled in price. So I have no idea what a bid would be if you put it in at the present time. But really, when you start to talk about medical therapy, anything in that line, I don't care if it's $600 a bottle or what it would be, it's still very inexpensive compared to the $200,000 that they're now charging people to treat a single case of cancer.
No one has ever paid for this material. there's been close to 20,000 people, I would judge, that have received it, but no one has ever paid for it.
It's not unusual for us to, wake up or come home and find people parked in our driveway waiting to talk to somebody because there is difficulty. We normally answer the phone in two ways. Of course, they hear about Cancel by word of mouth. Two ways that they normally get it would be either by contacting me by phone or by writing a letter. And if a letter is written, there has to be sufficient information in that letter, like maybe even medical records or something of that type, so that we know that they've got cancer, and we know that they have enough information about Cancel that they can make an informed decision to take it. If a letter comes in, with nothing more on it, that, gee, I heard about Cancel, send me a bottle, what they will get in return is an information sheet outlining several, salient points about cancer, or Cancel. So if they do want to get it by mail, why we sort of insist that there's enough information in the letter that we know that they have cancer, and secondarily that that they know enough about Cancel at that particular point to make an informed decision that they should or were willing to take it and take it properly. And if they don't, why we just simply returned information sheets to them to give them that information so that once they understand it, they can either get back to us by mail or by phone. If it is a phone conversation, why, of course, I can go over that data with them and find out what they do or don't know and fill in the information that they need and then make the decision at that time whether they, should be taking Cancel or whether they want to take it and whether I will make it available to them. So it's pretty much on that level.
So Ed, how many bottles have you shipped out this week?
42, and what did I send out today? I sent out 17, 23, 24 today, 42 yesterday.
What's the average on a weekly basis?
A little over 100 bottles a week we send out. And that doesn't include, shipments when the medical profession wants a chunk, like 100 bottles here or something like that. That's always on top. But it's got to be running, well over 5,000 bottles a year. And it's growing daily. That poor wife of mine, his so-called 14th Amendment, the protection from involuntary servitude, but she's got trapped on the letter end of this thing, and of course there's one other gal that helps her that's retired from public health, and they're handling probably 100, 150 letters a week that come in that way.
So